So what is up, everybody? It is Rodak with Rodak Survival, and we are here to break down the 2022 Supercross season. Tonight was round 12 in Seattle. It was a pretty good night. Kind of boring in some areas, kind of exciting in other areas. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Actually, before we jump into it, guys, if you could like this video, I would really appreciate that. And if you love the content on the channel, please consider subscribing. I appreciate every subscriber I get. So if you could please just consider subscribing, I would really appreciate it. Now let's jump into this 250 class. So right off the bat, you have Christian Craig pulling the whole shot with Michael Mosiman following closely behind. I believe Hunter Lawrence was somewhere back there in 4th or 5th. So all three guys who have been consistently the fastest guys throughout the entire season for the 250 West Coast class, they are up there all in the top 5. So we're like, all right, we're in for a good race. So a few laps go by and Mosiman, to my surprise, is actually keeping up with Craig. He had a really good pace going on. He ended up catching up to Craig, and right before the finish line, he actually ends up taking Craig out. Now that would obviously put Mosiman in the lead. Craig would drop back to 6th place, and that would allow Hunter Lawrence to catch up in 2nd. Fast forward just about 2 more laps, and Hunter Lawrence decides he's had enough. He's gonna make the move on Mosiman, so Hunter Lawrence goes past Mosiman for the lead. Now these guys would run a pretty consistent pace until maybe about, these guys would run a pretty consistent pace until about the 8-minute mark left to go in the race, when Christian Craig had worked his way up back from 6th after going down. He had worked his way past Mosiman in 3rd place, moving him up to 2nd place. Now when I saw this happen, they weren't too far behind Hunter Lawrence, so I just assumed that Christian was going to be able to catch Hunter Lawrence. They were only like a 1.5 2 seconds back. There was still 8 minutes to go in the race. Christian was all the way back in 6th, like 6 seconds back, so I just assumed that Christian was going to be able to catch Hunter. And again, to my surprise tonight, Hunter kept his pace up and Christian was able to reel him in, but Hunter rode a great race and kind of kept it at about 2 seconds. Christian would end up making a last-ditch effort to try and get into that first position. On the last 2 laps, he closed the lead down just a little bit more, but it was too little too late, and Hunter Lawrence comes out as your main event winner tonight. Now before I get to this top 5 and we move on to the 450 class, I do have something to say about Christian Craig's comments on the podium. Now I can understand being frustrated at him saying this is the 3rd time that he's been cleaned out, but tonight was a little bit different. The other ones I can completely understand being frustrated with. This one was the one that I could see him being least frustrated with, but it seems like he was the most frustrated with it. And my reasoning behind that is pretty simple. Christian looked over the left side of his shoulder and saw Mosiman was there when they went over that triple before they went into the bull corner before the finish line, and Christian decided to still rail the outside. When you are the championship leader and you have somebody that's still fighting for points, fighting for that payday, and you know that they have the advantage of you on the inside, I don't know why at this stage of the season you would assume that this guy's just gonna ride clean. They are trying to make up as many points as they can. So I think Christian only has himself to blame for going down in that corner. All he had to do was just back it off, let Mosiman go ahead. If he thought he was faster, then just pass him back. He decided to stay full throttle around that corner, and that's what ended up happening. It put him on the ground. He wouldn't have had to come back from 6th place, because he saw Mosiman there. Like I said, you can go replay it. He looked over his shoulder and legitimately looked at Mosiman, knew he was there, and decided to still hang in the corner. I mean, props to him for hanging in, but he would have just settled in 2nd place, it wouldn't have happened. But with that being said, let's go ahead and go over your top 5. You had Vince Freeze in 5th place, who was rather impressive tonight. He got his first heat win ever, so congratulations to Vince, and he came through in the top 5 tonight. You had Joe Shimoda in 4th. Had a pretty quiet race. Him and Mosiman battled it all the way down for like the last 5 minutes and wasn't able to get him. Mosiman coming through in 3rd. He said that he had bent his rear brake rotor, so he was running that whole rest of the race with no rear brake pretty much after he had ran into Craig. You had Christian Craig coming in 2nd, and you had Hunter Lawrence coming away with your win. Now let's go ahead and jump into this 450 class. Now in this 450 class, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, it was a pretty boring race for me. So to come out for this 450 main event, you had Eli Tomac grabbing the whole shot, Justin Barcia in 2nd, Jason Anderson 3rd, and I'm thinking, okay, we have a setup for another good race tonight. But just like the 250 class, to my surprise, Eli and Justin Barcia set a pace out there up front that no one was gonna be able to match, not even Jason Anderson. Anderson. And even more to my surprise is Justin Barcia actually hung with Eli for about 5 to 6 minutes, and he really didn't fall off. It was always about 2 to 3 seconds. So Justin Barcia was back there keeping Eli Tomac honest. But then about midway through the race, Justin Barcia would end up going down. He landed on the tough lock. He actually got super lucky that that could have ended so much worse for Justin. Could have potentially ended his season, because that was a huge quad that he hit and came down super hard, but he got lucky that he hit the top of those tough locks and rode down the back of that hill. If he was like a foot or two shorter, he would have smacked right into the up face of that next jump. So with Justin Barcia going down, that would obviously let Jason Anderson, Marvin Musquin, and Malcolm Stewart by, putting Justin Barcia back there in 5th place. And this is where I say it gets pretty boring, guys. Eli would end up pulling out about a 15-second lead over Jason Anderson. Anderson was about 7 seconds ahead of Musquin. Musquin and Malcolm kept about 3 seconds apart from each other, and Barcia was about 6 seconds behind those guys. And that's literally how it stayed from 10 minutes on to the end of the race. The only exciting part we had was maybe for like the last 3 minutes, Cooper Webb was battling with Justin Barcia to get into that top 5. But as far as those top 4 goes, they literally stayed about the same amount of pace away from each other. Eli was just able to ride this thing home. So being the Eli Tomac fan that I am, I'm still not going to say the championship's done, because we know that anything can happen. It's Supercross. Literally a 6-inch mistake can end your whole entire season. But I think Eli is old enough and mature enough and smart enough to know how to ride this thing home to the end. But still, I'm like Michael Scott. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little bit stitious. I'm not gonna jinx Eli going into these last couple of rounds. But man, Eli looked like an absolute robot tonight. He looked like a video game. He was just railing everything. He was landing everything. Like, there was no mistakes from Eli the whole entire night. It seemed like when everybody else was struggling to get around the track, Eli just made it look like it was easy. It looked like he was playing a video game. It looks like somebody was literally playing him on a video game and could make no mistakes. And still, in this day and age, with all these guys that can go out there and win races, to go on a 5-race win streak, I mean, even if you don't like Eli, you gotta tip his hat to him. For me, like I said, I'm a Tomac fan, so I'm super excited to see him win 5 in a row. It was so wholesome and heartwarming to see his wife and child there after the race, and then him just smiling. He just looks so much happier now, and man, I just couldn't be any happier for Eli. So I'm sorry I didn't have too much more to get into with the 450 class. Like I said, it was pretty boring after about the 12-minute mark. But for your top 5, you had Justin Barcia in 5th, Malcolm Stewart 4th, Marvin Musquin in 3rd, Jason Anderson in 2nd, and Eli Tomac 5 in a row coming through with the win, who now has a commanding 54-point lead. Remember, guys, if you don't even watch Supercross or you don't know how the points go, you get 26 points for a win. So Eli would literally have to finish like 7th or worse for the rest of the year, and one of those, and I believe it's Jason Anderson, would have to win every single race to even have a chance. So like I said, little stitious, not gonna throw the jinx out there, but I think we all might know what time it is. So with that being said, guys, I'll leave you with the same outro every time. If you could please drop a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Like I said, I wholeheartedly appreciate it, and it helps out so much if you just hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys in the next race. Peace.